It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the UPikeville's assistant bowling coach for the women and men's, Andrew Dekowski. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college bowling?
So, college bowling wasn't the first kind of job opportunity that I was kind of looking into. Like, when I got out of school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had an opportunity to come down and watch my sister bowl at the University of Pikeville, and where Coach Bobby Brown kind of offered me a graduate assistant job. And he was like, "Hey, if you're doing nothing, just come work for me, get your master's degree for free, and help me coach." And things like that. And that kind of turned into me kind of falling back into love with bowling and being able to understand, like, hey, I have a niche for this and I'm pretty good at this coaching side of things, so why not try to make it a career out of it. So after I graduated with my master's degree, the university decided to create a position for me to basically make me the men's and women's assistant bowling coach. And it's been an awesome ride so far. This is year 4 of kind of coaching, second year of being full-time coach. And it's been really fun so far with the kids and getting to know them and seeing all the tendencies and flaws and building on things, which is awesome to see.
Of course, what was your experience like going to William Peterson and getting to compete in college bowling there?
William Patterson was awesome. It was an absolutely fun time being able to compete at the highest level on the men's side. We were a club team, so I didn't get the scholarships or anything like that. We paid full tuition and all that stuff, but it was an absolute learning experience because, like, getting to travel on the road, going to different brand new places. Like, it was fun. And my coach, Greg Hatcher-Savis, he was an awesome coach. I know him since I was like 5 years old. And being able to come in and compete, be a two-time All-American, it was an absolute fun time. My senior year, I was didn't think I had the greatest year, but I was ended up being runner-up for Player of the Year. So it was an absolute blast to have being able to be a part of college bowling. And if I can go back in time and do it again, I'd do it again in a heartbeat because it was so much fun.
How was that experience like getting to put on that bowling uniform and representing your college?
It was an absolute honor. Bowling sometimes can be an individual sport, but once you put that uniform on that with your university's name and logo on it, it's a different environment. You're not competing for yourself anymore. You're competing for your team and your university. And it's like being able to bring back a couple of club national championships and finishing runner up at one of the most prestigious college events and USBC national championships that my freshman year. It was fun to bring back and put William Patterson back on the map because a lot of people don't know back in the early 90s and late 80s, William Patterson was a national powerhouse in college bowling. And it was fun to kind of put them back on the map my 4 years when I was there.
Of course, what was that experience like being a part of national championships at William Patterson during your time?
It was nerve wracking. It was absolutely nerve wracking. So the one that my freshman year, it was nationally televised, and it was a different experience that you kind of don't get every day in bowling. It's like being under the lights, and it's just a different environment. It's hot, it's sweaty. Everybody's together, and it's like you have the crowd watching you, and you're being recorded for TV and stuff like that. So it's an absolute different environment. But winning the 2 club national championships, it was more of in that natural bowling setting, which it was still nerve wracking because you're competing for a championship for your university, and being able to do it back to back years. My sophomore and junior year was absolutely fun. It was a blast with my teammates and winning things for our university.
Of course, as a bowling athlete and being on national television and being broadcast, what was that feeling like knowing that you were kind of like the football players or the basketball players that always were broadcast on television?
It was just such a cool experience. And the one thing we were told, it's like make sure you take in all the experience and all. And like I can tell you right now, I can remember it like it was yesterday being there and what happened and things like that. Because it's just something you'll never forget. It's something I'll tell my grandkids 30, 40, 50 years from now and my kids and things like that. It's an experience that it'll be documented forever, and you can go back and watch it and things like that. And it's like today I still do that, because a lot of my players don't believe I was on TV, or they go, hey, look, I found this on YouTube of you, and you like. So it's like it's just a cool experience to know that like bowling is recognized on TV, and it's on national TV as well.
What was that transition like from you from leaving William Patterson and getting into college coaching of bowling?
It wasn't the hard. At first, it was pretty hard to understand. All right, so like I'm not a player anymore. A lot of people can't do the things that I was able to do as a player. So it's like it's understanding you have to have a little bit more patience and being able to teach. And like I was pretty good at being able to teach and help my teammates when I was at school to understand the concepts of what we're trying to do. So now kind of going into coaching and being on the coach side, it's having a lot of patience and understanding that it'll be done but not as quick as you'd like to, because everybody's different in how they develop. So patience was a major key in learning, and I'm pretty patient now with when we're trying to build new skill sets and teach things to our players.
Of course, coming to UPikeville, what was that experience like getting to coach the women's when only as a player you had experience with the males?
I think it's a lot easier to coach women because like a lot of time like you deal with guys and things like that, and you get egos in the way, and they don't want to listen. They think they know everything. But like on the girl side, it was easy. Like they look at you for the leadership to say, okay, hey, what am I doing wrong? How do we fix this? Where do we go here? Where do we go there? And all right, how do I get better at these skill sets? They asked a lot more questions, and it was like, okay, like I can understand, I can do this. And it's like on the guy side, sometimes it's hair pulling because they think they know all. And it's sometimes it's like, okay, we need to sit down and show them that they don't know all. And so then they understand, okay, you do know what you're talking about, and you can understand what's going on and things like that. So
How's it been like, obviously, getting to be a part of the UPikeville's program for the men's and the women's, and have coaches like Coach Williams and Coach Brown with there for you?
it's a really good experience. The legacy that's behind this university and the program, and how much they care and things like that. They push me to be better every day, and try to work at kind of getting better and doing things a lot more for the program and all that kind of stuff. And even having a university that's behind us, like you don't hear a lot of universities behind you behind their bowling team. It's usually football, basketball, baseball. But like the University of Pikeville, they're fully committed and fully behind their bowling program, and they will help us lead the charge if we want to go do things like go compete for national championships all the time. Like they just built us a brand new bowling center on campus, so it's like a lot of schools don't do that for their bowling programs. So it's like having the support of that, knowing that I can come into work and I have all the tools and ability to help my players develop and become better bowlers, and also become better people and have that ability to affect them in their lives and make them better. It's been a blessing.
Of course, what are some of the things that you took as a player, as a bowler, on a club level to then help you into coaching on a bowling league level?
I came from a very competitive club team, and coming here, it was just giving them new ideas on how to stay competitive and maybe be even more competitive on the level where we are at. And it's like a lot of the time for our men's team, we cross with a lot of club teams as well. So it's just getting them to understand, okay, how do I develop a winning mentality, and how do I teach them how to win? So like that's the thing. It's like a lot of people understand on the individual side how to win, but how do you win as a team, and where do we go from there, and how do we keep building and teaching them the skill sets and the knowledge of, okay, we can do this, and how do we win together?
What does a typical tournament look like for you as a coach for UPikeville?
They're very long days. So normally we start about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're done by like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's a lot of standing, a lot of communicating with my players about what bowling balls to throw, what moves to make. We're bowling at least 5 to 6 games, and it's like it's a very long day, and it could be very dragging sometimes if we're not bowling the best. But it's like I try to teach my players how to understand when we're not bowling the best to make the best out of our what we're trying to do. And normally when we're struggling and we're not competing and we're not the best, we're normally bowling okay, better than most of the field. So it's just trying to build the confidence in my players of, hey, we can do this, understand, just trust the process and all that kind of things as well.
Of course, as for you being the assistant coach for both the men's and the women's, what is that like balancing being the assistant coach for both when, let's say, maybe the women's is away and the men's may be home?
It's a busy schedule. It's a busy schedule. Even trying to balance practices, like we had a conversation today about practices for tomorrow. Like tomorrow, it's a 7 a.m. start, and we're not getting done until 7 p.m. because balancing men's practice in the morning, women's practice in the afternoon. And what we try to do with our schedule bowling wise is we're usually always on the road. We're the weekend warriors, so we try to build our schedules to almost exactly the same. So we're kind of in the same building, in the same vicinity, but maybe in a different bowling alley. So and normally I'm either with either the men or the women, depending on what kind of environment or where we are and things like that. But the schedule gets very hectic sometimes.
What does a typical bowling competition meet look like?
So we'll start with on a it's we're both weekend tournaments. So Saturday will be a 5 to 6 game block. So we'll bowl 5 to 6 games in a time span between 8 o'clock in the morning to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then Sunday we'll come in about 7:30 and we'll bowl Baker games, which Baker games are we split the whole bowling game up into 5 frames. So the lineup is 5 bowlers. So we bowl like position 1 will bowl frame 1 and 6, position 2 will bowl frames 2 and 7, position 3 will bowl 3 and 8, and position 4 will bowl 4 and 9, and position 5 will bowl 5 and 10. And we'll bowl probably about 30 to 40 of those type of game styles as well. So the college bowling is a long, grueling days on the weekends because you are standing for at least 7 to 9 hours throughout the day, and then also packing up and driving home on Sunday nights. So it's like getting home on 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night on a Sunday. It's you're ready for bed once you hit home. So,
Of course, as a coach, what is it like coaching the Baker style versus the Red Robin style?
so the Baker style, it becomes a lot more difficult because like we're trying to make sure our players are all in the same spot, the same areas, and trying to keep up with our moves and being able to stay ahead of the move because once we fall behind, we can lose pins and turn a good game into a bad game very quickly. And with the round robin style, it's kind of it's a little bit easier because there's a lot more frames and everybody's bowling their own game. So if we do have a mistake here and there, we're able to make it up within the next couple of frames, either throwing 2 strikes in a row or throwing a triple and making and bouncing back. Where Baker, it's a lot of momentum. So like with Baker, if we have an open frame, it could lead to a couple open frames in a row. So it's all about momentum and making sure we stay within the moment and not chase a score where in the traditional games we're not really chasing scores basically.
As a coach, what is it like keeping the momentum of your bowlers when you have a long weeks? Like, let's say you may bowl on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and maybe Friday you didn't do good, Sunday you didn't do all right, but then Saturday you did fabulous.
It's all about keeping their mentality strong and keeping them in a positive mindset that it's going to be okay. Like we just have to keep working through things and keep grinding. We use grind a lot. Like keep just pushing forward, making good shots, and really not trying to leave a lot of low counts like 5, 6, 7. Those really hurt a bowling score. Getting counts like 8, 9 or striking really helps. So it's like getting those type of counts and making sure that we're making our spares. Spares can change a game completely, and also staying in front of our moves and making sure if we are bowling good to keep in front of that move so we can continue that positive going forward.
Of course, for my listeners that don't know, how do you compete in collegiate bowling?
Competing in collegiate bowling, like a lot of the youth bowlers go out and they bowl all these local tournaments and they bowl some of these national tournaments, and a lot of like we go out and we recruit a ton. Like a couple weeks ago I was in Nashville recruiting, and there's this group called Recruit Us that does a phenomenal job on blasting out college recruiting events, where he runs his little local tournament. He gets about anywhere between 50, 60 kids in each kind of region that he's at. And we kind of get into those type of events where it's kind of a college fair, then they do a tournament, and then they do a little bit of a clinic. So you kind of get those little one-on-one times with the athletes there. And also there's a big, massive youth tournament every year. I think this past year was in Indianapolis, called Junior Gold, where there's 5,000 kids between the ages of 8 to 17 competing for a massive youth tournament. And we see a big, at least 2,000 to 3,000 in their college fair there as well. So there's a lot of opportunity for youth bowling and getting seen by college coaches.
Who are some of the teams that you compete against during these tournaments?
So on the men's side, we see a lot of Wichita State. There's a school called Weber International down in Florida that's really good. Wisconsin Whitewater, University of St. Francis in Illinois. There's a whole lot of schools on top of that, like William Patterson as well, my former alma mater there. So there's a whole plethora of schools there, and then on the girls' side, we'll see Wichita State, we'll see Sam Houston, St. Ambrose out in Iowa, Mount Mercy out in Iowa, Stephen F. Austin, which is a Division I school, Delaware State, which is a Division I school, McKendree. So like there's a whole on the girls' side, there's a whole plethora of schools you'll see between NEI and NCAA. And on the guys' side, it's NEI or club teams as well.
For the girls' side, what is that like getting to compete against some of those big schools like McKendree?
It's a interesting battle of who's better and who's the best school and stuff like that. When we line up with those NCAA schools, we know that we can compete and we're gonna be ready for them every time. It's like we want to go out and beat every school we compete against, and we prepare our girls to go out and make sure we're ready for any battle we're gonna compete against.
What does that home game competition look like for the bowling side?
Home game competition is hard for us because we don't really have a home event. We're trying to create college bowling into a place where there's home and away matches like volleyball or tennis or basketball and stuff like that. But like we're on the road constantly, either traveling to a different state or even going across the country to bowl tournaments and things like that. So there really isn't we don't really get that home match feeling. So that's what sucks about things with college bowling. It's like you're always on the road, new environment every weekend. So it's just making sure that we're mentally prepared for a new environment and we're ready to go skill set wise to compete at the highest level every weekend.
Of course, as you talked about, obviously being on the road constantly for competitions, how do you keep the momentum of your players on the road versus, let's say, in other sports, you have those home games where they can be like, okay, I can relax, I'm on my home surface?
It's teaching them to understand like we're going to be constantly on the road, making sure our bodies are ready to go, getting into the gym, making sure that we're prepared physically and mentally, that like it's going to be a long weekend and a long season. College bowling is one of the longest seasons ever. Like for us, we start in September and we don't end until middle of April. So it's like we're constantly going. We got to make sure that we're ready and taking care of our bodies, going in to see a trainer when we have aches and pains, and making sure that we're stretching and before events and stuff like that. But most of these kids come in, they're somewhat already ready for college bowling, understanding that there's going to be a travel, because a lot of youth bowling is done with a lot of travel, moving from state to state, going to bowl big youth tournaments, because these kids want to bowl. When they want to bowl, they want to bowl against the best, so they go bowl these youth tournaments across the country. So some of them are already ready for the travel, but a lot of them aren't ready for the long, grueling days of college bowling. That's what we prepare them for.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to help build for the bowling program for the men's and the women's side?
On the women's side, it was just coming in and just reiterating it in a different voice on how to win, and how do we get to achieve our goals, and be able to reach those goals, and giving them new ideas on how to become successful, and just a different mindset. On the guy side, it's a little different. It's trying to teach them how to win consistently. Like, they can win, but they get caught up in that lull, like, oh, we won, we're good to go. But it's like, no, it's like week in, week out, how do we consistently prepare to make sure we're ready to go and bowl and win week in, week out. And like last year was one of the best years for the men's side, teaching them how to win, because we won 8 tournaments last year, and just getting them to understand, okay, win this weekend, come back, keep working hard to make sure we're ready to win the following weekend. And on the girl side, it's just making sure we reiterate that, hey, keep working out, keep going, keep practicing 3 to 4 times a week, making sure we're ready to go. So those are the kind of things we've kind of pushed culture-wise, and how do we win.
What does that prospective student athlete, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes when out on the road recruiting and bowling?
A lot of people take the concept of, a lot of coaches look at their bowling average, and that's not the full factor of what we look at. That's probably the very smallest factor we look at. We look at the character of the player, how they interact with their parents, how they interact with others, how are they mentally when they're bowling good, how are they mentally when they bowl bad, are they physically skill set, do they need work, or is it like, this youth bowler is pretty good, but like, if they come to us with a few minor tweaks, they can be even better. We look at a lot of physical things and a lot of character things because we're looking to continue our culture of, we look at good students, good players, and just all around good people. So it's a plethora of different other varieties, factors of just not average. It's other things as well.
Of course, what does that prospective student athlete, when coming on the official visit, what does that look like for those prospective student athletes?
So like today we had a girl on campus, and we get them to sign up through our admissions website, where they get a full admissions tour. Our recent recruit, our missions team is awesome with their tours. They take them on an hour and a half tour of campus, show them all the ins and outs and things like that. And then we meet up with them, take them to lunch, have a conversation about the tour, what they like and things like that. And if they have any questions about the university that they wasn't answered on the tour, or if they have any questions about the bowling side of their tour and things like that. And then we take them out to our facility. We'll let them practice with the team, get to see the players, give them a tour of our facility out there, and just get this interaction of a little bit one-on-one more with the player, plus with mom and dad. So it's kind of making them have that home type feeling, that when they come to our campus for a visit, that they're wanted and they're welcomed.
Of course, what is that like as a coach, seeing those prospective student athletes fall in love with your campus and fall in love with your bowling facility?
It's honestly pretty cool to see how, like, when they get there and they see the tour and they see the campus and they go, I absolutely love this campus. This kind of fits me, because we're a very small campus. We're probably 1,000 kids, probably 5 to 6 buildings, 4 or 5 dorm buildings. You really can't get lost. And it's like a lot of the university staff and faculty, if they see you walking on campus and you're wearing a bowling shirt, they kind of say, "Hey, our bowling program is great. We're very well known on campus," and it's like it kind of feels good to see that they're already being welcomed and a they're not even admitted into the school or selected the school to come there. And it's just great to see that even the parents, they're like, this is great, the university's awesome. And it's really cool to see that they understand like what we see day to day, they feel it 500 times more than we do every day.
Of course, as a coach, what is that like getting to know that your bowling program is well known in the school, not just in athletics, but in the school's community?
It's tough because we're like it feels like there's a target on our back sometimes because like if our player gets in trouble, things like that, it's like they're coming to us and they know instantly a bowler and things like that. So it's like we kind of set the standards to like, hey, make sure you're doing the right thing, make sure you're following the rules, going to class, things like that. Because like once you kind of walk around with that bowling gear on at the University of Pikeville, everybody knows you and they go okay, like he's a bowler, they're a bowler, so that everybody knows the bowler. So it's like we kind of preach to our kids like go out, do the right thing, be active on campus, join the clubs, go do the campus activities, show that we're known and on campus, and just make sure that we're carrying out the right way of, hey, we're the university, we're the bowling team, and we want to be known and things like that.
As a coach, what is it like seeing those students, athletes put on that bowling uniform for the first time?
It's a cool experience to see what with the kids coming in that you recruit and seeing that okay, like we've had conversations and we made the connection with through communication through a few years, and it's like okay, we finally got them here, and it's like okay, this like now how do we make sure like we take that player from where they were when they first came in, and how do we grow their skill sets to become the bowler that they want to become, and make sure they're advanced and keep advancing in the game of bowling, and also making sure we help them grow as a person and in life as well, because you're going to learn life lessons through bowling and through school as well. So how do we make sure we help them grow throughout this experience here? Excuse me.
What is that like seeing your freshmen put on that uniform for the first time and your seniors putting it on for the last time?
Being able to see them put it on for the first time and then for the last time, it's kind of a little bit of a like, wow, an era is over. Like coming in the following year and go, wow, we're like, you don't see the same faces. Sometimes it could be a little bit of a heartbreak because like you're so used to seeing those same faces for day in, day out throughout the 4 years they're here. But it's like you got to know like it's only 4 years. They come in, come out. It's going to be. We call it how do we not we rebuild. We call it how do we reload. So it's like how do we kind of make those connections with the next group coming in and build those relationships with our players, and making sure that these relationships last a lifetime, knowing that when they do graduate, we're only a phone call away to help them with whatever they need in any endeavor they're trying to chase after.
As a coach, what is it like seeing your players go on and go into professional bowling or even into college coaching like you have?
It's a cool experience to see players that want to go into that professional bowling or that college or that being that college coach, because then they start asking questions like, all right, how do we get better here? How do I do this? What's the next step can I take to kind of get on that professional level? How much work do I got to put in? Or they even come back to you and go say, hey, I need help with coach. Like I need more help. How do I get more one-on-one time with you to kind of be able to reach that next level? Or they sit down with you and go, okay, how does this college bowling coaching work? How do I get into it? How do I start basically? So it's pretty cool to have those conversations with players and seeing their thought process on where they want to go, and it's awesome to see.
What are some of your future plans for the UPikeville bowling program moving forward?
It's going to be a long. I see myself here for a long term. Like it's going to be a while. I'm only 27, and this is going to be year two as a full time coach, and being able to help them grow and help hopefully keep pushing the envelope a little bit to bring home more national championships on the girls' side and get that first national championship on the guys' side, and being able to help hopefully lead this program to the right direction and continue to build on this legacy that was built 20 years ago and hopefully keep going forward and showing the university that we are a dominant program in college bowling and continue that legacy.
What are some of the things that you're doing now to then help build that program for the championship bowling program for the girls' side?
It's a lot of studying and staying up with the advancement of bowling and staying up with the new techniques and new skill sets and new tricks into the trade and being on top of the game. Like what we do is we take a lot of time in the summertime when we have in our off season, and we sit down and we learn new things about the bowling equipment, new physical game techniques where changing things to make sure we're coming in where we might not have thought of, but like, hey, this actually works, and we're going to change it in our players to make them even better. So it's a lot of studying and staying up with the game, and it takes a lot. It's a lot of hard work and dedication to this, and putting in the long hours to make sure that we're ready to compete and really keep building on the legacy that we've built so far. And it sometimes it can be a hassle, but we know in the long run it's going to help and kind of drive that force going forward.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen looking to enter their first year of collegiate bowling?
Student comes first. Like you're a student athlete, but student comes first, because a lot of these kids come in and they think they know how to do school until you hit week 4, 5, 6, midterm maybe, and they're behind in school and they don't know how to ask for help. Like go get help. If you're struggling in class, go get help. Being a student comes first, because if you don't make the grades that first semester, you're not going to be able to compete second semester. And being able to have those, keeping up the grades in school is a positive thing. But also come in with an open mind. Like you're coming to, you're like for our kids coming in with us, like we're going to help you build your game to a whole nother level. So coming in with an open mind and saying, okay, this is how we're going to start, and coming with fresh ideas and how to kind of advance your game forward is what we kind of preach to our athletes.
What advice would you give those seniors that are looking to go after college onto the professional circuit of bowling?
Be ready to work even harder than you did in college, because the guys out on tour and the women out on tour are really good, and you need to work harder than them to have a chance to go compete and be ready to go compete out there on the professional tour for the men's and women's side. They are absolutely grueling tournaments, and you have to be mentally ready and prepared for it, because a lot of times like it's not going to be your day. So it's like, how do you figure out when it's not your day to have your B game work instead of your A game? So and be able to compete at the highest level and still have a chance to make some money, make a cashing line, or make a qualifying event or something like that. So it's like, make sure you're ready to work harder than you ever have to be able to compete out there and hopefully make a living out there on tour.
What advice would you give those collegiate bowlers that are looking to get into college coaching and bowling after their career?
Be dedicated to your university and your kids, because college bowling and being a college coach isn't a 9 to 5, 5 days a week. It's a 24/7, 7 days a week type of gig, and be dedicated to your craft and being able to understand you are their teacher of bowling, and you're their coach. And if you have kids that come from far away, you might be mom, dad, brother. It's like you have to be able to connect with these kids and be there for them when times get tough, when times are good. And it's like you need to understand, you also need to have patience. Like I've talked about patience a lot with in today with talking to you, but like being patient with a lot of these kids because there's some of them are 17, 18, 19 years old, and some they just need to be patient with them because they don't understand that. So it's like being dedicated to your craft and dedicated to the job is one thing that you have to kind of, I think, talk to a lot of the players that looking into going into college bowling, make sure you put in the hours to be successful.
What advice would you give those college coaches out there that are looking to coach on the women's side and the men's side like you have?
It's difficult. It is trying to balance between both. Normally, in a world where if you're going to be a head coach, you're going to be the head coach of the men's program or the women's program. But there are some programs out there that you do both, and there are very long days. And it's like, and you're running back and forth between both teams, and you hope you're in the same bowling alley, because if you're not, then you're trying to find an assistant coach to go take on that women's team or take on your men's team, and while you go to the other one. So it's like it can be very difficult at times, but it's like you still have to have dedication to your kids and make sure you're training them and getting their skill sets correct and teaching them that when you're not there, they're going to follow in your footsteps and do what you would say to them and be able to succeed.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you out on social media along with the UPikeville bowling program at?
So I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is decow857. I'm on Facebook at Andrew Dekowski. You can follow us on Facebook at the University of Pikeville Women's Bowling or the University of Pikeville Men's Bowling. And the same thing on Instagram. It's upike underscore W Bowl or upike underscore Men's Bowl. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram.
Thank you again, Coach Andrew Dekowski, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the assistant bowling coach at UPikeville.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for having me on. It was an awesome experience.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Andrew Dekowski, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.